Leader, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Liz. Happy New Year.
And to you, I forgot about that. So much has happened since the new year. We're not even done with January, and already you guys are off to this roaring start.
Well, it seems like normally this happens at the end of session, so hopefully things will calm down and we'll move quietly through the rest of the session.
From your lips, sir. That's all I have to say to some higher powers' ears. Let us talk about the budget. Your reaction to it was what exactly? You said you thought on time was possible, and it was a good blueprint.
No, my goal and the goal of our Republican conference is certainly to have another, not only on-time, early budget. I think the governor has set a blueprint that we can work off of. I think he has to respect the fact, and he has in the past, that the legislature does play a critical role in the legislative process. We are a bit of a debating society, and that's our job as the legislature, to work our way through his budget, have conference committees where we debate each other, and then eventually come to a consensus with the governor. But I'm very optimistic we can have it on time.
So do you take umbrage then when he says that sort of thing? Government isn't a debating society. You know, we are here to get things done and get results.
Yeah, but we've been getting things done, but we've also been debating.
Yeah.
And it's not a debate club like I was president of in high school, but it is a opportunity for the different legislators throughout the state, conservative, liberal, upstate, downstate, to express their views. And you discuss those views many times in the form of a debate, and our job then is to get a result and come to a consensus, which we have done for the last 2 years.
So he didn't propose any new taxes, which I'm sure you're pleased with, but he did propose some extensions of taxes that are set to sunset, as we say in Albany parlance. Do you think that's fair then to say, okay, there's no new taxes in here, if in fact you're continuing things that...
Well, the one I'm concerned about is the 18A assessment extension, which is on utilities. I know, for example, on Long Island, I think LIPA taxpayers, whether directly or indirectly, pay $32 million in this utility tax. I think that tax should be eliminated. I know the Senate Republicans, we've looked to accelerate its elimination in the past. Hurts all parts of the state, especially upstate, because of the higher utility costs, that are higher utility usage in manufacturing and other type of industries that we're looking to spur on and to grow and to create jobs. So I think this should be allowed to expire, and we'll certainly present that as one of our views.
Well, and also it comes at the time when the governor is seeking to get rid of, privatize LIPA, right? Which could end up costing taxpayers also, because LIPA is in so much debt, and if you're trying to retire that debt or take over that debt, you have to pay fees to the debt holders, and that could be $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look at it. The bottom line is, my position is that what is in the best interest of the ratepayers, that's what I will support. LIPA has done a horrible job in the last hurricane, but we're not convinced that privatization is necessarily the way to go.
Well, you have some problems also if whatever entity takes it over doesn't pay property taxes to all those Long Island communities.
There are a slew of issues that we have to work our way through, and even if you moved in the direction of privatization, I think it would take a couple of years for it to happen.
Also, this raised some eyebrows. The pension smoothing proposal that the governor made. It's basically allowing local governments to borrow on the savings they're expected to have for the creation of Tier 6, thanks to the creation of Tier 6. Some of the good government types have said that's not a good idea. What's your response?
Well, it's really a smoothing process. What I find interesting is the state Democrat chairwoman from Syracuse, the mayor of Syracuse, she questioned it.
She did.
But you know, it's one of the recommendations that we'll review. I think we should really look at other types of real mandate relief in terms of costs to local governments and school districts as we move through this process.
Were you disappointed by, there was some mandate relief, but it wasn't sort of any of the big ticket items that we talk about? Scaffolding, WICs. Were you disappointed that that wasn't in there?
This is part of the process that we'll go through. I know he indicated a modification of binding arbitration.
Yeah.
We'll look at that, see if that can potentially save money without causing strikes or other types of disruption. But again, I think it's a good blueprint. He 3 years in a row, this is his third budget that he's presented, and I think we can work off of it.
There wasn't. Did you consider it antagonistic of him to put minimum wage in the budget?
No, you know what, Liz, I'm now a grandfather, and I think I have little Dean, who's 14 months, and it puts life in perspective. I think that that's something that he has supported in the past. It's something that we're concerned about in terms of job creation, in terms of young people, many times in minority communities, not getting jobs because of the higher minimum wage. We're going to look at it, as I said we would in the past. In the past, I said it's not the right time to do it.
You did,
If it's not the right time to do it, then I won't be supportive of it.
But you seemed to suggest a sort of intuitive link, if you will. You said, well, tax credits is something that we believe as a conference, the Republican conference, will create jobs. Do you see those two things as linked?
There's potentially a linkage, no question. I think the fact that the governor eliminated the automatic cost of living increases, I think that's very, very positive in terms of helping. If we do a minimum wage, we should look at perhaps phasing it in. Can farmers throughout the state that are struggling, can they afford an increase in the minimum wage? You know, it's not that simple an issue. I think anybody that you talk to, if you say, shouldn't somebody be making $8.75 an hour? Most people are going to say yes, but you have to work your way through it to see, is it in the end going to be counterproductive to job creation? And that's my concern. I have voted for the minimum wage increase in the past.
Do you buy the administration's argument that it's in fact belongs in the budget because it will be an economic driver because people make more money and then they spend more money and therefore you get more sales tax revenue, for
Well,
example?
I think what the governor indicated that it would cost businesses $1 billion. He put up the figure at $1 billion that would cost businesses in additional salaries. So that's coming from somebody, whether it's the consumer, the bottom line of businesses. So we have to balance this very carefully before we just jump in and because something seems to be very popular. When you explain to people some of the ramifications of it, then they're a little bit more cautious in terms of their support.
Not in the budget was campaign finance reform. The governor has indicated specifically support for a public campaign finance system. You have said that perhaps it's too expensive, particularly if it's taxpayer funded. If it's some other funding mechanism, and we don't know what that might be, although the governor seemed to suggest as much in the state address, could it be something that you would support?
Well, I think that public financing is not the way to go. Our estimates, it could cost up to $200 million, money that could go to education, low wealth districts upstate, and many of them on the island also that need funds. It could go to real property tax relief. And I think when you explain to people, do you really in Bern, New York, want to be paying for campaigns in New York City, primaries and general elections? I think many of them would say no.
But if the taxpayer isn't paying, in other words, if there's some other funding mechanism, I know it's been floated, casino revenue would be used. Right. I don't think the governor seemed bullish about that. But if some non-taxpayer generation system was created.
Well, if you have casino gambling, the governor has indicated that 90% of
right.
that will go to education.
Yeah, and
10% would go to local governments and the course as host communities. So you're taking it away from them.
Right, but I'm just wondering if there's some other way that you could see. Would you be more amenable to the idea of a? You wouldn't.
I think it just it's an abuse. I think it is abused. We've seen in New York City where people have raised thousands and thousands of dollars when they have no race whatsoever. So I don't think it's the way to go. Not saying we won't look at different campaign finance reforms. In terms of transparency, that type of thing, I'm open to that. But again, public financing, taxpayer dollars to pay for campaigns, that I'm not supportive of.
So the left and other advocates, I should say, the Working Families Party, et cetera, of campaign finance reform, public Democratically financed campaigns are saying that the 46th Senate District outcome, where the Democrat Cecilia Kachik won, is in fact an indication of a mandate that race turned on campaign finance.
Well, first of all, she won by 19 votes, so I can't say it was a mandate. It is a Democrat-leaning district. President Obama's landslide throughout the state, I think, really hurt Republicans, to be very honest with you. The numbers that came out, I've never seen numbers like that, 134,000 in that district. And this, in certain ways, was almost like a Watergate or a Goldwater year. And it impacted, I mean, certain congressional races. Republicans were overwhelmed. So I don't see it as a mandate for campaign finance reform, public financing of campaigns. And I think what I found very interesting is that billionaires put $1 million, George Soros, who is so far to the left, put $500,000 and other groups into that race for campaign finance reform.
Right, and even they would recognize the irony, and they have said as much. They have to spend money to get money out. Do you feel like you have any responsibility for George Amador's loss? I mean, it was the Senate Republicans who drew that district.
You know what? If as the leader, certainly I take responsibility, a partial responsibility for him not winning. You know, we were hopeful he would win. I'm hopeful that he'll run again. And you know, when Nick Spano won by 18 votes, the next time Senator Stuart Cousins was elected.
Yeah.
This time, the new Senator Kachik won by 18 votes, and who knows what's going to happen next time. I lost my first run for the Senate, and then I was successful.
We're running out of time, unfortunately. I do want to ask you very quickly about the gun control law, signed into law, and you have some members who have these online petitions and are asking for repeal and replacement, whatever that might mean. Did you condone those?
I think that there may be some tweaks to the law, but I don't see the law being repealed. Certainly, you know, you would have to pass both houses of the legislature, and you wouldn't have the votes in the Senate. You wouldn't have it in the Assembly, and certainly if something happened where it passed both houses, the governor would certainly veto it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think what's important that people don't understand is that Senate Republicans, we were able to eliminate certain things that we thought were inappropriate to have confiscation of guns. At one time, the governor and the Democrats were talking about confiscating guns from people that legitimately have them, clips that people legitimately had. We were able to kill that. But we were also able to get stiffer criminal penalties because most crimes in the state are committed, especially in New York City, by illegal guns. So we've increased the penalties. Kendra's law, most of the people that are involved in these horrific mass killings, they have emotional, mental health problems, and we've been able to strengthen that also. I think in New York State last year, of the 400 and something homicides, no, close to 700, I think, homicides, 5 were with rifles, and I don't think 1 was with an assault weapon.
Well, I think the main complaint is that people who do not register their guns that they own and purchased legally that have now been classified as illegal will subsequently be criminals, they say. They think they're being unfairly targeted.
Well, federal law says that if you're not entitled to a gun because of certain reasons, you felony conviction, that type of thing, you're not supposed to have the gun in the first place.
I do want to just close by asking you, you know, the gun control law, many people thought was the first test of this new power sharing agreement that you have with Jeff Klein, your co-leader. And that you passed. I mean, obviously it passed through there. People have, some people are upset, some people are pleased, but it was passed and signed into law. Now the suggestion is the minimum wage bill will be the next test, or whatever comes down the pike. That's in the budget, may not be, as you've said yourself. Do you foresee any problem, something coming down the pike that would actually break your coalition?
Well, I mean, no, I don't think anything will break the coalition. You can have differences of opinion. Certainly there are down the road, there'll be some items that maybe our conference wants that may not happen, and there are probably going to be certain things that Jeff Klein or maybe the governor or Shelley Silver want that are not going to happen. But that's the way our democracy exists. But the bottom line is we have coalition government. The first test, it is working, and we're going to have bipartisan results. We've shown that Republicans can govern. We did it with Governor Cuomo for 2 years. We had 2 early budgets. We cut taxes. We did a lot of positive things. And there's no reason why that can't continue.
Well, Leader, thank you very much for your time. We'll be checking back with you in a couple of weeks, I would assume. Thanks.